We should just get a cardboard cutout of him just to sit in the chair.
We shall begin.
I just feel inclined to like look to my right now, just like to like look at Hayden and just go, ah.
Wow, welcome in. It's me. You're stuck with me and Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hayden,
I was wondering what you were gonna do.
I was gonna
Normally, if Hayden's not here, it defaults to me to like do the intro, and I was like, I'm just gonna stare at Mitch and see what happens.
Hey, you do what you got to do. Anyways, I'm here. Hayden is somewhere. He's off gallivanting.
Where is he?
Doing his, I don't know.
I don't know where he is. He's not here. Punishments will ensue.
Yes, they will. Yes, they
The
will.
beatings will continue.
Anyway, today, since we only have the two of us, it's a little hard to do trivia competition when you only have one person to answer. So today will be a focus episode on Tom the Magnificent. We're going to be going over some of Tom's favorites. So let you learn a little more about Tom and who he is.
A lot of people just turned off the show. It's just like, he's the least favorite of all of them. I don't want to hear anything about Tom.
But before we do that, we'll do our social media. Tom.
Well, you can go to entertainthispodcast.com, which take you to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. We're also, Mitch, you're always on Twitter. Was it entertain.this? This.entertain.
Yes.
Our Twitter is, our Instagram is entertain.this.
Yes.
That's about all I remember.
And then our YouTube and TikTok are just entertain this exclamation point. And we're also on the Planet X network on Roku if you have a Roku app or TV.
It's not a filthy thing, I assure you.
Well, they do have some questionable movie taste, but, you do what you can afford.
$20 is $20. Also, this podcast is sponsored by Red Bull Juneberry at a gas station near you.
Welcome to the movies.
Enjoy the show.
Well, we're going to start out with your top 10 favorite movies.
My top 10 favorite movies. What are my top 10 favorite movies?
Do you not remember?
I forgot when I wrote them down. Tell me what number 10 was.
Number 10, you wrote down El Dorado.
Great
So,
movie.
so tell us why.
I grew up with that movie.
And-
That was like my introduction to John Wayne.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
Western, Robert Mitchum, James Caan,
So-
Edward Asner.
You just like the movie?
My brother, we love that movie.
Give us a little bit of a backstory of what it's about.
El Dorado's about a gunslinger by the name of Cole Thornton. I don't take no mess. And he's like he's one of like the top 4 fastest gunmen in around the El Dorado town.
He wiped this woman off her feet with his arm after being shot.
Yeah, with one arm just swats her right in the ankles and just drops her right on her back after she shoots him in the back. And she's like, I don't know how I missed it. And he just like holds like his bloody, because he's like clearly holding his back in some sort of pain. And it's like, no, you got him. He didn't just fall off the horse on accident. But it's pretty funny.
And then was James Caan?
Yes, James Caan plays Mississippi. He's way faster with a knife than with a gun.
Which,
His shooting lesson is always hilarious because he literally takes one shot
oh yeah.
and he like misses. Like his first time like ever shooting a firearm, he just fires a pistol round at a cactus, misses and hit the bush next to it, and John Wayne just takes the gun from him and goes, well, it's hopeless.
Well, we'll start out with your number 10. Moving on to number 9, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I love that movie.
I've never seen this movie.
You've heard me quote it.
Yes.
Me and Evan will quote it in the Xbox party. At one point or another, quotes from that movie will start flying out.
So tell me a little bit about this movie, because like I said, I've never seen the whole thing. I've seen bits and like little parts of it on YouTube and things like that. So.
Well, I mean, Holy Grail, they wanted to do that as like a bit in Flying Circus.
Okay.
And then they're like, no, it would work better as a movie. So they spent like 3 or 4 years trying to get funds together just to make the movie. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the jokes, like the coconuts being clacked together to simulate the sound of horse hooves, and then just somebody walking behind them while they pretend like they're riding a horse, that was just because they couldn't afford horses.
Okay.
I mean, it reunited everybody in Monty Python because by that point, John Cleese had left. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. It's one of like the greatest comedy movies ever made. It was a huge phenomenon when it came out. My dad hates that movie so much. I made him watch it because I think he saw it when it came out in like 1975.
Okay.
He didn't like it then. He didn't get it. And even again in his 50s, he didn't get it either. The only part he thinks is funny is when what Michael Palin is playing the king.
Okay.
Or like the Baron guy, and it's his son's wedding, and he's like looking out the window with his son. And he's like, one day all this will be yours, and he just looks at like the kid like grabs the curtain, goes, what, the curtains? And like pip smacks him. He's like, no, not the curtains. My dad thought that was the funniest part of that entire movie.
Now this is the movie where like you have the knight like loses his arms and his legs.
Yeah, that's the Black Knight bit.
What was that? I've never seen that. I've seen like memes and stuff about it.
Well, in the beginning of the movie, Graham Chapman, who's playing King Arthur, is like going around Britain looking for knights to join the Round Table. And they get to this, he walks up on a battle between a Green Knight and the Black Knight, and the Black Knight kills him by throwing his sword at the guy, and it goes right through the slit of his visor, and just blood shoots everywhere. And then he tries to solicit him to join the Knights of the Round Table, and John Cleese, who's playing the Black Knight, is just standing there, doesn't say anything. And finally he's like, you make me sad. And he's like, come, Patsy, is like little horse clapping noise guy. And he goes to walk around him, and the Black Knight like postures and just goes, none shall pass. And it's literally like the dumbest reason. He's just like in the way. And he's like, none shall pass. And he's just like, I'm king. He goes, then you shall die. And he's like, so be it. They fight. And I just swatted my mic. And they're fighting. And he cuts off his arm. And he's just like, he's like, oh, it's but a scratch. He's like, oh, I've had worse. He's like, you liar. And then they keep fighting. He cuts off his other arm, and like Arthur like puts his sword down. He starts like praying, and he like runs up, he like kicks him, and he's like, look, you are brave. He's like, but you know, you've clearly lost. And he goes, chicken. And he starts antagonizing. He cuts off one leg, and he's like, what are you gonna do? Bleed on me? And he like shoves his wound into him, and he just goes right. And he cuts off his other one, and he's just a nub on the ground. He looks and goes, all right, we'll call it a draw.
All right. So why is that number 9 and not higher on your list?
I mean, I love the movie, but there's movies I appreciate more. Okay. As far as one of my favorite comedies, I mean, just going like, you can't be king just because some watery tart threw a sword at you, or strange women lying in ponds distributing silverware. There's no basis for a system of government.
All right.
The quotability of that movie is fantastic, though.
Moving on to your number 8, The Princess Bride.
That needs no explanation.
Yes, it does.
That's one of the greatest movies ever made. I appreciate that.
It's a good movie, but yeah.
I loved it when I saw it the first time, and I grow to love it even more every time I watch it, just because I find a little tidbit or like a throwaway line that I didn't catch or probably forgot. And it just makes it funnier. I think like the funniest line to me, I mean, there's so many, but when they revive Wesley and they're like looking on the parapet or whatever, like down at the castle, like on the wall, and he's like, what have I missed? He's like, you've been dead for like X amount of days.
He grabs his head, holds
yeah.
it up.
And he goes, just looks and goes, he's like, let me explain. He goes, no, wait, there's too much. Let me sum up. I don't know why. That's like the stupidest. Even the production of that movie is great. I think one of them, Manny Patinkin, who plays Inigo Montoya, he cracked a rib from holding in laughter when they were doing the Miracle Max scene with Billy Crystal. And actually, it's Wesley's not, Cary Elwes, he's not even laying on the table. In most of those shots, it's actually a dummy because he was laughing hysterically and he couldn't stay still and pretend he was dead listening to him.
Okay. I mean, I know that you always hear, like, you know, my name's Inigo Montoya.
But
you hear that, quotes. You'll hear other people, like in other movies and stuff. You know,
they'll spoof it like, I am so-and-so, you did X and Y, prepare to die.
Yeah. Prepare to die. All right, number 7 on your top 10 movie list is Excalibur. I've never seen this movie as well.
That's the 1981 film, pretty much the best Arthurian legend film.
I kind of assumed it wasn't the new...
the guy from Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, no, that's just nonsense.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't that one.
That was nonsense. The Clive Owen, but they were like Roman gladiators. That was stupid.
Yeah.
The only thing that was good about that was Keira Knightley. That was pretty much it. But Excalibur, actors you don't know.
It's a little more fantastical than the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Well, at least the Clive Owen one. I don't know.
Yes, it's more fantastical.
Okay.
There's actual Merlin doing Merlin stuff.
Okay.
One of the greatest scenes in that movie, it's like something Fortuna, the music.
I don't know.
It's like dun 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 dun. dun. Yeah. I'd play it for you. I can't mimic an orchestra. despite my best
I
abilities.
was like, give it a shot.
But Arthur gets like hurt, and then they send like he loses his way. He figures out about Lancelot and Guinevere. He abandons Excalibur,
Okay.
and Percival finds the Holy Grail, brings it to Arthur. Arthur drinks from it. He's revived because the king and the land are one. And he assembles the knights to go fight his ill-gotten son, Mordred, from Helen Mirren.
Now, how closely does this resemble the actual like Arthur legend?
I think it's actually pretty close. I haven't really read. I mean, obviously, it's a movie. It's fantastic. It's artistic license.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got Patrick Stewart, very, very young Liam Neeson running around out there.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. This is another one that I'd never seen, so I wasn't sure. We can move on to your number 6, which I have also never seen. Zulu.
You never saw Zulu, the 1964 movie?
No.
Michael Caine's and Stanley Baker?
No.
Really?
No. I don't even know what
Love
it's
that
about.
movie.
Don't even know what it's about.
It's about British soldiers at Rorke's Drift during the Zulu War. It's actually the most Victoria Crosses awarded to a single group for a single action. And the Victoria Cross is the English version of the Medal of Honor.
Now, I'm dumb, so what is the Zulu War? I've never heard of that.
So, in the mid to late 1800s, Mitch, in Africa, this thing called colonization was happening. The British, of course, loved to take other people's stuff at the time. The British Empire. They invaded Zululand from their province of Natal, which is pretty much southern Africa, parts of South Africa going north. After they issued an ultimatum to the Zulus to do X, Y, and Z, they had the Battle of Isla where like 1,300 or 1,500 British soldiers were annihilated by the Zulus. Basically, this was 100 dudes at a old like mission that they fortified and fought off like 4,000 Zulu warriors over the course of like a day or two.
Now, like, was this like 300 style where it was them versus a bunch of people? So,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, wave after wave, they were losing buildings, fallback positions, but I mean, just through good old British guts and firepower versus spears, the English prevailed.
Through superior might, numbers, and technology, they eventually won.
Well, not through superior numbers.
Oh, I thought you said they had more.
No, the British were like 100.
Oh, I thought you said the Zulu like had 100. So I'm like, man, they're fending
No,
off.
that's just like some nonsense.
That's what I was wondering.
That's
I was
like an
man.
afternoon to them.
Oh, okay.
No, this was like 4,000 Zulu warriors versus like 100 British soldiers,
Gotcha. Okay.
and like native Natal contingent guys and Boer scouts.
Okay. So, like, what is it about this movie that makes you like it so much?
That was one of the best war movies I ever saw, and I like the historical aspect that it was like mostly true from what they filmed, because they actually had like descendants of the Zulus
Okay.
who acted as the extras
Cool.
and like did like all their like war chants and all that stuff. Because if I was standing there with a rifle looking at all those dudes doing all that, I'd be like, yeah, I think we're in trouble. These guys are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of time that you're outnumbered massively, it's it's always the underdog story. So it makes for a good story for visual mediums. Moving on to your number 5, Patton.
Well, Patton's just great. Have you seen Patton?
I think I have.
The opening is George C. Scott standing there with all the medals and the big
Yeah.
American flag, and he's like giving the meh,
Yeah.
which I think is almost verbatim, missing a couple of parts of his speech, like around D-Day.
Okay. I've seen this maybe twice.
He won the Oscar for this movie
Okay.
for best performance,
Do you know when it was made?
1970.
Oh, okay. So explain a little bit about Patton. What the movie is this for the people who've never seen it?
Well, Patton's a World War II movie about General George S. Patton, who was at the beginning of the war a 2-star general, all the way up to 4 by the end of the war before he died
Of World War II.
in World War II. I said that.
Okay.
And it's about his career during the war, from his arrival in North Africa, again going through to Sicily, Italy, and then Europe, and then into Germany.
Now, do you just like this because of the history aspect, or did you?
Oh, the history, the acting is great. George C. Scott being Patton was awesome.
Now, if I remember correctly, there's a couple of scenes where I like how stern he is compared to the other people, and they're just kind of like taken aback, like, oh, okay. So, but it's pretty, from what I remember seeing, it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, Patton his mouth got the better of him sometimes, and occasionally his hand when he smacked some soldiers.
Yeah.
Which, granted, I mean, you looking back, like what their issue was, I mean, it was pretty much PTSD, and they were having episodes. But Patton was just like, "No, get back out there! You're going to the front, kill more Germans."
He was just trying to Knock some sense into him. That's all.
and his rivalry / hatred of General Montgomery from the British
What was that?
because they fell under the same operational command.
Ah, okay.
Because like they have to take Sicily, and Patton's plan was like they would land here, they would cover and like take X spots to cut off everybody. And Montgomery was like, no, we're gonna do this, and like you guys are gonna go over there and do nothing while we get all the glory. So Patton literally re-geared his entire army because Montgomery got control of all the roads. So Patton had to find like cross country routes. He managed to go north to Palermo. And then cut all the way across the island into Messina to cut off the escape route of the entire German army still left, who were trying to evacuate into Italy.
Okay.
But the Germans get a communication. It's just like Patton's taking Palermo, and they're like 9, damn, shouting in like their big fancy German headquarters. And then they give one to Montgomery, and they're just like Field Marshal, sir, Patton's taking Palermo, and he just looks and goes, damn. He's all everybody. And I kind of like the bit where like they show like the German high command stuff where like they have like an expert on Patton who's like a researcher explaining to the German high command like who he is, how he's going to do stuff, because he like pretty much calls, I don't know how accurate it is, but a lot of Patton's strategy from what he knows of him and what he's already done, where it's like, Patton's a 8th century warrior stuck in contemporary times. Like he's going to do this, this, and this because that's what the Romans did. That's what the Athenians did. That's what the Carthaginians did. That's what he's going to do. And they're like, nah, you're crazy. You're dumb. What are you, an idiot? And then Patton does literally all that. And they still couldn't figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've maybe seen this twice. And it's
a long movie.
The last time I saw it was probably 2009, somewhere around there.
No, I had it on DVD.
So it's been a while. But moving on to your number 4 in movies, The Great Escape.
Love that movie.
What is it about? I've never seen it.
About the Great Escape?
Well, I know what it's about because I watched the Grand Tour episode, so I kind of know what it's
Oh,
about.
but they go to Stalag 3?
Yeah.
Or Stalag Luft 3?
That's the only reason I know anything about it.
So The Great Escape, it's a true story. I think it's Poland now. They're in occupied Nazi Germany parts. All these escape artists, they were all ex-pilots who were shot down over Europe and captured.
Okay.
And they were like the most notorious, like high-profile guys they had they always tried to escape. That's all they tried to do and just mess with the Germans. That was their whole existence at that point. So they built this camp. They sent all of them to it and like to this like super camp, like these highly trained guards to watch them. And their organization was called, I can't remember what their organization was called, but Richard Attenborough plays the Big X who's in charge of it. And you have guys who were scroungers, manufacturers, tunnel experts, reconnaissance, document forging, tailors, all this stuff. And they built like the tunnel like you saw in the Grand Tour where they had gone like that amount of distance that far down.
Yeah, this is like 30 feet down. And
that was one of 3 tunnels that they started.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 30 feet down underground and then was like 100 or 200 yards out. It's just pretty impressive considering they were trying to do
because they
it
had
without
done
being
one
hurt.
and they were pretty much there. Like they were going to, it was basically just waiting for the right time to escape. And the Germans found it on accident. Like in the movie, I don't know how accurate it is, but in the movie, like one of them, like, grabs like a cup and he's like pouring like hot coffee and he spills some on his hand and he drops like the thing and he sees the water go through the cracks and disappear and not stay on the, on the cement. And then they like look and like they like start hitting it and they could hear it's hollow. So like they figure out like they moved the stove because they saw like the pipe fitting that they had to put on it to keep the stove still going so they wouldn't tell from the outside.
Yeah.
And then they figured out that they had built the tunnel. And then they built the next one and I think 70 or 80 something of them escaped at one time.
Jeez.
Into Germany. Like just, I mean, they ended up capturing 50 of them. They executed all 50 of them
Okay.
for it.
Now, who stars in this movie?
Richard Attenborough, Steve McQueen, James Gardner, Charles Bronson, the scientist guy from NCIS, whose name eludes me. James Coburn is in it. All prominent guys. Did I say James Gardner?
I think so.
He's in it. Bunch of dudes you'd like just recognize from like old movies, including some of the German. I know you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. But
I
it was a
recognize
high profile cast. Elmer Bernstein did the score. I remember seeing this actually at my grandparents' house in Brooklyn when I was younger, because it like came on like the music, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And my grandpa was like, "He's like, watch, you'll like this movie." He's like, "It's a great movie." And there's a lot of like,
little old kid.
I really was. I was raised by older people. everybody's just like, "Oh, we're gonna go outside and play." And my grandpa's like, "No, The Great Escape's on. You want to watch that? That's what you want to do."
I've noticed that there's a theme with your list that most of the stuff is like
Because it's better.
early 80s or older.
Because it's just good stuff. It's good, clean stuff.
All right, we'll move on to your number 3, which as a group, we just listed
I
as
grouped
Star
it,
Wars
yeah.
trilogy.
It's hard to just put each one.
Yeah, the whole trilogy of the original Star Wars.
I didn't even want to see Star Wars when I was a kid.
Why?
Because it was like something my parents liked.
Oh,
And when you're a kid, like, no, mom and dad, like, that's stupid. Because Blockbuster. This is when, what anniversary? I think it was like the 30th.
they came out with those added scenes or whatever.
Yeah, on VHS.
Yeah.
The black and gold with the slide thing.
Yep.
With Darth Vader's like silhouette on the side.
Yep, I had
Yeah.
those.
Yep. We had them. We had them in New York. So my mom had got my dad those either for like his birthday or Father's Day or something. And my dad's like, "Oh, cool, Star Wars," because this didn't show on TV.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything. You had TV. If a movie came on, you were lucky enough to sit through it, and you had to run from the bathroom back when the commercial was like, "It's on."
I remember that was it Return of the Jedi? It was out in theaters like with the remake stuff, and that's the first Star Wars I ever saw in like a theater. Because they did when they did all these extra scenes or whatever, they re-released the stuff in theaters. Granted, it was like maybe 30 seconds together of new stuff, but they had it in theater. So me and some
I
friends
don't even know what the new stuff. They edited in Boba Fett
Yeah,
in A New Hope.
There's like one scene where as they're going into one of the like cantinas or something, there's some like CGI character.
Yeah, they made it a
something like
little
that.
more expansive.
Yeah.
Like looking like there was like a lot more going on.
Yeah.
But when me and my brother were like, we were little, and my dad's like putting it on, and we're just like not interested. Like, no, we don't want to watch this stupid Star Wars movie. Like, you're dumb. Like, this is what you like, Dad. You're old.
So
Don't trust anybody over 30.
So what made you like Star Wars? Because
I don't remember seeing Star Wars, the original one, for the first time.
Oh, you don't?
I've just known I've liked it.
Oh.
I remember seeing Return of the Jedi. I mean, like once we saw like the first one, we saw Star Wars. Me and my brother, like my dad's like within like the first 5 minutes. He's like, I couldn't tear you and your brother away from the TV if the house was on fire.
I just know comparatively to the rest of your list, it's fairly different because it's like futuristic and sci-fi stuff, where everything else is pretty much either fantasy or historical. So I just wondered why you had that one different than the others.
In Star Wars, Jedi, blasters, flying, space. It's cool. The Death Star.
Lightsabers.
I own 4.
So who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
I don't know. Original Star Wars trilogy only?
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Okay.
Close seconds, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So when you were watching these movies, when you found out, spoiler alert, that
I was shocked.
you were.
I was shocked. That shook my 6-year-old mind to the core. That a man so evil, who knows, you never really see him do like bad stuff like he's purported.
Right, yeah.
I mean, did he torture his daughter? Yeah. Did he kind of blow up Alderaan? No, he didn't give the order. Did he cut off Luke's hand? Did he kill Obi-Wan Kenobi? The more I stack up against him, he's an evil evil bum. And
Well, he had to fight Kenobi. He couldn't just let him go. And then, he was defending himself against Luke. So,
he was just messing with Luke in Empire Strikes Back.
Well, what's neat is like, I like comic books and stuff like that. Well, they've actually made a comic book series
About Vader.
Well, yeah, it's about Vader, but it expands from Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi because that's supposed to be a longer period in between
Where
movies. And it shows a lot about how the Emperor was testing Vader because he had grown closer to Luke, and so he's like sending him out on these like missions and stuff like that.
He's hiring people to kill Vader just to like keep him sharp. And
Well, this comic book series kind of like delves into more of what Vader, reminiscing about Padme and missing, what he had, and realizing that he could change things if he could just convince Luke. So it's pretty interesting.
Vader, the more I look back, Vader was the most interesting character.
Yeah.
At all. He's like the most fascinating one.
Well, and then when they added in the prequels, you learn a lot more about him. So it expands, makes you feel sorry for him in the second trilogy or like in the original trilogy after seeing the prequels. So.
Plus, I mean, he was like 7 feet tall, all cool armor, breathing heavy.
Grabbing people by the throat, just lifting them up.
Yeah, because like the first scene, like you see after he walks through the doors, is like you see his feet on the ground and the other dudes are like a foot off, and Vader's just holding him at eye level with one arm.
Yeah.
And he's just like choking the crap out of him and just launches him into a wall. It's just like, yeah, that guy's in charge. Who's this dude?
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I love the original Star Wars trilogy as well. So we'll go on to your number 2, which we actually had a focus episode on a while back.
We did.
Master and Commander.
And The Far Side of the World.
Yeah. So why is this on your list?
I love that movie.
I thought you were going to say, I don't know.
I never saw it in theaters. We had rented it. And just like from the opening couple of minutes with them being, I mean, I was like, old wooden warships, from like the golden age of sailing.
Yeah, I figured anything old and British style is.
Yeah, it takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, the British Empire versus France, the Royal Navy, 1815 or 1814, whatever year it is, taking on a French privateer, Russell Crowe.
There's a lot of actors in this movie.
It is an ensemble cast.
Like Paul Bettany is like the ship
But,
doctor.
yeah, he plays Steven.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I hadn't seen it in a long time until we were getting ready to do that episode that we did. And it's a pretty good movie.
Like even the opening action. I mean, most historians who watch it go, this movie's pretty much the pinnacle of the representation of what it would have been like on a boat.
Okay.
And with naval warfare at the time.
Yeah. And I forgot, why were they going down through South America or around South America?
Oh, around the Horn?
Yeah.
Is what they call it. They were chasing the privateer ship.
But I mean, like what
He had orders from the Admiralty to find it.
Was the other ship just trying to escape, or was did they do it?
Because in the beginning of the movie, it goes like, the little synopsis where it's like, orders from the Admiralty to Captain J. Aubrey.
Uh-huh.
You are to find the French ship Acheron, sink, burn, or take her a prize. The ship's intent on carrying the war into these waters, into the, the West Atlantic.
Okay.
And into the Pacific.
Now, how, like, as far as like historical, like, are they the ones that went to the Galapagos Islands and like documented these creatures? Or
I don't know how accurate that is.
Okay.
I imagine, people sailing around eventually stumbled their way upon the Galapagos Islands. Someone surely found it because they had a map.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was them specifically, but they may have been the first ones to do something. I mean, it's obviously a fictitious story.
Well, you said this is like a book story. Yeah. I was thinking it was based
By
on
Patrick O'Brien. 20 books. Well, 21 if you count the unfinished last one. But I own all of them.
How does this follow just the first book, or is more than one?
This is like 3 books in one.
Okay.
This is Far Side of the World, Master and Commander, which are 2 separate books. And I don't remember which one the third one was about.
Okay. And lastly, your number 1 on the list.
No one should be shocked.
It looks like it says Power Rangers. No, sorry, Lord of
Power
the
Rangers, the movie.
Lord of the Rings, the trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
I mean, do I really need to go into why?
Well, let's explain. This might be somebody's first episode hearing why.
Why does Tom love the Lord of the Rings? Why does he have a Lord of the Rings tattoo?
Sit back and relax. It'll be a minute.
No, I'll keep it brief. I remember vividly seeing the commercial for the Fellowship of the Ring in 2001. I was like 8 or 9 maybe. I don't know. I remember it came on and I saw the commercial and I was like blown away. I was like, I don't even know what's going on. And I was like, there's a really tall guy with a pointy hat or like horns on his head.
Going,
Bo Baggins. I was like, I got a wizard. There's a flaming demon. There's little people, some bigger dudes, an angry dwarf with a big axe. I'm like Legolas, like Orlando Bloom does like the shot where he shoots the arrow and it goes through the orc's head in Moria. And I'm like the music, I was just like blown away, just sitting there watching this, and I was just like going, like yelling at my parents. I was like, "Get in here!" And I was like, "What is this? This is a movie. We need to go see this. When is this?" I waited months for it to come out because like the ads came out in like August or something or July, like Lord of the Rings in theaters December, and I'm like, "No, now! I need it now!" And my dad, when the movie had come out, I was just like, all I talked about for like months was like, I'd see the commercial, like, I want to go see this movie. I want to go see this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, Lord of the Rings, I couldn't even read the book. I probably couldn't read. Well, I mean, I could, but not that well.
We're still learning.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm on level 4. I get called to the principal's office one day. They're like, oh, like the phone rang in the classroom or whatever. Or no, this was intercomed. That wasn't until middle school. And I go down with all my stuff, and I'm sitting there, and my dad standing there waiting for me, and he goes, yeah, he's like, your brother's got to go to the doctor. He's like, you got a dentist appointment. And he's like, we're going to bring you back when we get done. It's like only going to be like 2 hours. This is like 10 o'clock in the morning. So right now, my day is just shot. I just ruined. Get in the car. I put my seatbelt on, and my dad just like starts the car, and he just pauses, and I look at him, and he just looks at me and goes, "We're not going to the dentist." And I'm like, "Well, where are we going?" And he goes, "We're going to the movies. We're going to go see Lord of the Rings." And my dad's like, he's like, for however long the first one is, 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
I sat still with my eyes open, my mouth slightly ajar, and I didn't move. I didn't have to pee, nothing. I just sat there like intently, like nothing existed in my life except that screen. Like peripheral vision was gone. Everything. It was like me in the movie. I was there. I was just like standing in the background, just like, go get him, guys.
Now, how much does that affect your choice to make that your number one? Your dad, special occasion like that. Your dad.
Oh yeah, it was a huge special occasion. And then I remember when it came out on VHS, my mom had gotten it. She didn't tell us because we didn't. I mean, back then you didn't know when stuff was coming out on VHS.
Well, yeah, because they did.
It just happened. Like you went to Kmart, it was there.
Well, yeah, because there was no big like, oh yeah, they're releasing on it because you had social media back then, so it was just kind of like, here it is.
Like I saw the movie, and we had gone back to see it a couple weeks later. We took my sister, she's 5 years older than me, and at the end of the movie, because she was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go see the Fantasy Dragon movie with the swords." she was at that point an early teen, so she didn't care about it.
Yeah,
I was super psyched because I got to replay everything again.
Yeah, like when this came out, I think I was in high school, like I was in 9th grade or something like that.
In 2001.
Maybe 8th grade. Sorry.
What year were you born?
88.
So you're probably 12 or 13.
So I was either in 8th or 9th grade, but I just wasn't into that kind of stuff at the time. Now I love these movies, but at the time I was just
you're like a latter day fan.
Look,
I've slowly like pulled you into it.
I liked Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers when I was little, and then I didn't really like any. I didn't pay. I didn't even like comic books until after I got out of high school, and now I love them. So
now you spend thousands of dollars on them.
Well, don't tell my wife that. But
remember, I got the VHS tape when I got home, and my brother wasn't home yet. And my mom's like, "You gotta wait for your brother," and I was like, "Yeah, okay."
Sure, Mom.
And I was sitting there watching the movie again. I'm just like, "Yeah." My brother comes in and he like looks at the sleeve. The VHS tape came in, and he's like, "Lord of the Rings," because he was too young to like go see in theaters, like the loud noises, the orcs and all. We thought it would scare the crap out of him. So sitting in broad daylight in my room while two of us are sitting on the floor with our backs against like the foot of my bed, watching it on my like 30-inch TV with like little fuzzy, that was like his first experience seeing it. So we just sat, like, I rewinded it back to the beginnings. I was like, I'll rewatch this again. Stop me. And we just both sat there, and I was like, watch this part. Like, watch this part. And I was like, get ready.
Now, which one, like, out of the trilogy is your favorite?
Fellowship.
Fellowship, okay. Why is that?
I just have more memories of, like, that one being, like,
sense.
my introduction to it. And then, then we took, the Two Towers had come out. Because there was, like, the Super Bowl ad. They were going to show 5 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Two Towers is my favorite, just because I like the big scene at the end where they're fighting at the castle.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that was the first one we took my brother to go see, and then my sister came too. And then Return of the King came out, and my dad just could not wait for it to end. He was just like, stop. He likes the movies. He loves the movies. He doesn't like love them, but he really he liked them.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, they're like a 7 to him. To me, it's 38 out of 10. Just because he had to pee, but like he thought the movie was going to end like after they saved them, and they're just like, oh yeah, and then like, nope, they're going back. Nope, we gotta go here. He's just like, all right.
Okay. Well, so that you didn't want to change the order of any of your top 10 movies. You still like?
Now, Lord of the Rings trilogy is always going to be number one.
I kind of figured that.
Master and Commander, I love almost as much as its own standalone film.
Okay. Well, we're going to introduce this.
History began on July 4th, 1776.
I'll fix the movie part.
They sound squishy.
All right, we're going on to your top 10 TV shows of all time.
Uh-oh.
So, for number 10, you have listed as Magnum P.I.
But the original one with Tom Selleck.
I kind of figured.
Love that TV show.
I didn't think it was the one that just ended or something.
That was on. No, that was stupid. That guy didn't even have a mustache. He's gonna run around as a PI without a mustache.
Did he wear a Hawaiian shirt?
I don't know. I never watched it.
Was it a Ferrari?
Yeah, he had a Ferrari. Well, Tom Selleck, he had the Ferrari, he had the shirt, he had the Detroit Tigers hat, the mustache of greatness, the greatest mustache ever stashed.
Isn't there one episode where like he has to shoot a nun or something like that?
It's like a dude
I-
like pretending to be
I
a
don't
nun.
know. I want to say there was an episode where like there's a nun climbing up a ladder and he like pulls his gun out and has to shoot. Like has a shootout with her or something.
Probably.
I don't know.
I think it is. I've seen every episode. I don't remember that one. I feel like I would.
I don't know. Just that. Maybe that's something else. Maybe it's a parody.
So when I was in college, this was on Netflix,
Okay.
and this kept popping up. Like you'd like this, and I'm like, I never watched. Like I mean, I knew who Tom Selleck was, but I never watched Magnum PI, and I was like, I was just a dopey '80s show. And then I was at the library, and I was bored because I was like between classes, and I had like an hour. So there's no point for me to get on the bus, go back, literally walk into my apartment, and then just get back on the bus and go back to school to Southern. And I was like, all right, I'll start watching. So I was sitting there watching it on my phone on the app, and I'm just sitting there watching. And then it was like 4 hours later, I missed class. Like I just kept going through episode rows. I just got hooked on the show, and I binge watched it.
Okay. Well, near number 9, you have The Faulty Towers. I don't know what that is.
Faulty Towers was a comedy show from John Cleese in the late 70s. They only did 2 series. I think there's only like 12 or 13, maybe 14 episodes.
What's it about?
He plays an innkeeper in like the British countryside. His name's Basil Fawlty, and the name of the place is Faulty Towers, and he's like a manic lunatic, like
Who's John Cleese? Like,
from Monty Python.
oh, okay, okay.
The tall one who looks kind of like Hitler if he had a mustache.
I was trying to think. I didn't know if that was Mr. Bean's real name or not. I couldn't remember.
No, that's Rowan Atkinson.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Which is in your next thing.
Yeah, I know. I saw it on your paper. So Faulty Towers is pound for pound, I'd say one of the greatest comedy shows ever made, just because it's so much comedy condensed into such a short. There's no wasted episode.
Okay.
There's not a single episode where you're not going to laugh. Well, you probably won't. I don't know if you get some of it.
Stupid British humor.
I remember like reading about it. It was like I'd gotten into like Monty Python and all that, and it's just like, oh yeah, after like they disbanded or whatever, and John Cleese left, he did Faulty Towers, and it's like rated pretty much like number 1 or 2 or 3 in like comedy shows in England.
Okay.
And then like I got it for Christmas or whatever on DVD, and I just tore through it in a weekend, and I was just like, this is like the best show.
All right. Well, like we were talking about, was it Rowan Atkinson?
Rowan Atkinson.
For number 8, you have Blackadder, which I mean, is that just him just doing silly stuff? Or?
No, it's a historical like sitcom.
Okay.
So the first season is like 8. I don't know if they were 6 like the other ones. It might have been like 7 or 8 episodes. But he plays, it's like a fictional historical timeline. I don't remember the kings or whatever. But basically, like, this family, like, lives for like a year. And he's like the doofus, like, nobody likes him son. He's like a sniveling dude. And his, like, sidekick, like, servant is the smart one.
Okay.
And the running gag is he's the Blackadder, or a variation of it. And
Which is what? Like, what's
the
that?
Blackadder is a snake. So this is the season he takes the nickname the Blackadder to like sound sinister, and he wears like all black, and he's got like little snakes on his like stupid suit with daggers or something through him.
Okay.
And then Baldric is his like number 2 guy. And this season Baldric's the smartest one. Because he's like, I'm gonna come up with a name. He's like the Black Turnip. And like the music's like, Deh! And Baldric just kind of leans in and whispers, goes, what about the Blackadder? And he goes, that. And it's just like they're like historical hijinks until like the end where he dies. That's like the recurring joke is like he dies at the end of every episode or every season. Like they just done.
Gotcha.
And then like each one of them is a descendant of that one. So season 2 is during like the Elizabethan era, and he's a suitor.
Okay.
And this time he's the smart one, and Baldric's an idiot. And it's their nonsense and day-to-day hygiene. And Stephen Fry is in this one. He's in 2 of the seasons. He's in 2 and 4.
Okay.
And it's the court hijinks, and it's sitcom parody, but like they're pretty much episodic.
Yeah.
It's like the 30-something minutes per episode. You're just in the story. Next episode.
Okay.
And then season 3 is during the Regency. Hugh Laurie plays Prince George, who's a total doofus. Blackadder's his butler this time, and Baldric's his servant, who's also a moron. And then the last season 4 is during World War I.
Okay.
And that was probably like one of the greatest episodes for the ending of a show.
Why is that?
Because like their whole show, it's them like getting out of like fighting. Like they don't move. They make fun of the war. Like, like there's like, it's like they bring him to headquarters, and Stephen Fry's an idiot. And he's got this giant mustache. He goes, we have a cunning plan. And he just goes, we're going to get out of the trenches and walk very slowly at the Germans. And his aide just goes like, how'd you know that's top secret information? He goes, it's because it's what we've done the last 19 times. And he goes, that's exactly why it'll work. They'll never expect it at 20th. And it's just like, they bring him a map. And he's just like, God, it's a desolate wasteland. And he goes, sir, it's upside down. And he flips it over and it's the actual map. It's just that BS. And there's like one bit I always remember is like Baldrick's outside. You just hear scraping and Black Guy's trying to read. And he goes, all right, I'll play. Baldrick, what are you doing? I'm carving my name on this bullet, sir. Why? Because they say somewhere there's a bullet with your name on it. And I thought if I owned that bullet, it wouldn't get me.
Smart thinking.
And
Kind of.
plus, like, the banter between the two of them, like, pretty much Rowan Atkinson's put-downs to him are just, like, the greatest. It's almost like Burns galore. But at the end, like, they try to get out of, like, going over for, like, an operation, and then basically the entire company has to advance. And they're trying to get out of it, like, as they go to the ladder. And it's just like, I got a cunning plan, which is like a reoccurring bit. And he goes, that's a nasty splinter right there. So man could get hurt. And it's like, unfortunately, it's like, I don't think there's any way out of it for us this time. As like everybody's like going up to like advance on the ladders, and he's like loading his pistol, and he just like looks at his watch, and he's just like, good luck, everybody. And they all climb up, and then like the explosions, and it like fades, and they actually show like where they were to the actual poppy field it is, but all the poppies are red because of all the blood.
Yeah.
So you have to watch the whole thing to really appreciate it.
Okay. We'll move on to your number 7, which is a running theme again. It's Monty Python and the Flying Circus.
I mean,
British comedy.
I will say the first 2 seasons of that show were probably the best.
Okay.
After that, like Cleese left, or like he was in and out. Graham Chapman's alcoholism was really skyrocketing. And they kind of started recycling some material, but some of it was just like the funniest stuff in the world. Like I used to laugh hysterically. I have the whole box set; it's huge.
When did this come out?
This was like 1969,
Okay.
or like 1968. But like like they make fun of like the Beatles, where like they would run down the street and all these girls and people are chasing them.
Yeah.
And like people talk about like at the time, it's like that never really happened to them. He goes, but that did happen to John Cleese. Like all the time. Like he couldn't leave his house. Like we had to sneak him out sometimes. Like that's how popular that they were.
Okay.
And it was such a huge show. Like all the bits. Because like the opening scene of like all the episodes was like Michael Palin like all dressed up raggedy, like he was like a shipwrecked dude. And he'd be coming from like all these distances. You had to watch him run and like stumble and like go through, like come out of the ocean, climb down a cliff or something. And he'd get right to the camera and go, and then it would go right to the Monty Python cut screen. And it's like Monty Python's flags.
That makes me think, what? It's the Muppet Show. Yeah.
It's like, no, something completely different. And then that show had so many great bits that we could have an entire episode about all my favorite Monty Python moments. But
Well, we're not going to.
Okay.
We're going on to your number 6, which is kind of a change in gears. It's an anime, Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes. Love that show.
What's it about?
It's about sorry.
It's about Yu Yu Hakusho.
It's about Yusuke Urameshi, a teen who is a piece of crap when one day he has like an altruistic act where he saves a kid's life and he dies, but he's in purgatory, so his body's still technically alive, like comatose. And he has to do a series of tasks from the underworld to get sent back to his body in the real world, but he has to work as a spirit detective for the underworld and handle various cases and solve crimes.
So what made this? Is this the first anime you got into, or what?
I mean, I was into Dragon Ball Z and all that, but this was like on Toonami, but this was on like later.
Yeah, because I remember it being on there. I just never watched this one.
So I remember when it was premiering and they'd showed like clips or whatever, like down the road with like him like teamed up with Kurama and Hiei. And like, fancy swords fighting, cool looking monsters and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, all right, I'll give this a whirl.
Okay.
And then like every week I was just like, I need to watch Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, there's a new episode.
Okay. I was just wondering. We'll move on to your number 5, which is Barney Miller. What's Barney Miller?
Barney Miller is a 70s New York City detective show, but it's a comedy.
It's not what I was thinking of.
So my dad, he's retired NYPD. He was a New York City detective, worked in homicide, did the whole to-do. My grandpa was retired NYPD from the 50s into the 70s. So a lot of this like overlap.
When things got done.
Well, I mean, like when I was getting older, like I remember, when things were getting really done. Like nightstick, like the wood shampoo is what they called it when you hit somebody upside the head with a nightstick. But I remember asking my dad, and I was like, "What's the most like accurate like detective show you've ever watched?" And he's like, "Barney Miller." And I remember we got it for him for like Father's Day or something, like the first season.
Yeah.
Never had seen this show, never heard of it until we had asked him, and then he got it. Like he went and had it, and I remember watching the beginning, and I'm just like waiting for it to be like serious, but it was never like really like serious. Like it was just a comedy show. Like it was just ridiculous because you had the captain, who's Barney Miller, played by Hal Linden. You had Abe Vigoda, who played, you know who Abe Vigoda is?
No.
Tessio from The Godfather.
Who's Tessio?
All right.
I've only seen Godfather maybe 2 or 3 times.
Otis from Good Burger, the old guy, the fry cook.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, so him, but this is in the 70s, and he looked like he was like that old then.
Okay.
You had him, you had the Polish guy, you had Jack Sue as Sergeant Umana, you had Ron Glass, who was from Firefly, played Sergeant Harris. You had this like myriad of like characters in this one squad room, and like they never left the squad room. Everything happened in the squad room.
Okay.
It was either at Barney's apartment with his family, or it was there, or maybe once in like a season there would be a different spot. But it was always just a squad room, and it was just the ins and outs, like the crooks getting put in the cage, which was like in the back and center, and just like character actors who come up as like cops or crooks or something or detectives.
Okay.
And it's just like this. It was like a sitcom.
It was a
sitcom.
Yeah.
But it was like the funny stuff. My dad would just be like, he's like, there would be like stuff that would happen. You're just like, there's no way. It's just so outlandish or ridiculous. My dad's like, no, that's happened. He's like, it's happened to me. He's like, I've seen this. He's like, this is real.
I would say it's unbelievable, but I would believe it. the things that happen in some of these shows, it's like, yeah, I understand.
The opening is just great because it's just like 1970s New York. You know, the two towers were still there.
Yeah.
And like there's this epic bass line as it like, and like guitar as it like goes. I mean, the Barney Miller bass line, everybody knows it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know you don't because you never saw the show. I'd recommend it to you. You'd probably enjoy it.
I might. I have to give it a shot. Anyways, your number 4 in TVs is Hill Street Blues, which I don't know that.
So Hill Street Blues, that was a me and my dad thing.
Okay.
As I got older.
Is it a comedy or more serious?
Comedy, very serious.
Okay.
I mean, it's a police show.
Okay.
So after like we had seen Barney Miller, like me and my brother were like younger, we were like early teens, and I thought it was very funny. As I got older, I think I was in college and I was home for the summer, and I remember asking my dad because I was doing criminal justice classes and all that, and I was like, hey, what's the most like accurate like patrol like TV show? And he's like, oh, Hill Street Blues. And then we found it on Hulu, and for like a couple of weeks, like me and him would sit in front of the computer because we didn't have like streamed on the TV. We didn't have that kind of technology yet.
Yeah.
And we would sit there and like he'd be like drinking a beer and he'd let me have one because I wasn't 21 yet, but nobody cared. I'd have a couple anyway. But we'd sit there and we'd watch. And he showed me like Hill Street Blues and like the opening, like every episode, like it would do like, you know, it would black title card and it would be the time, like random times in the morning, and it would say roll call. And that's how everyone started. Like, oh, you have all these detectives, like plainclothes guys, dudes in uniform. They all had like leather jackets with badges, and like they were allowed to wear baseball caps. Like some dude had like a Red Sox hat on. Other guys have like the precinct like hat, like the logo on it. And I was like, that's pretty accurate. And they're just like hanging out, smoking, talking crap, and the grizzled old sergeant comes walking in, and he's like giving like them this bit about how like a warning for unauthorized and bizarre weaponry used by officers in the precinct. And it's like you know, from command, it goes, when said weapons inspection starts now, and everybody's like pulling out like sawed-off shotguns, brass knuckles, like trench fighting knives, extra pistols. Everybody's just like all these bizarre chains, bats, like with a nail in them, like they just drop everything on the tables in front of them, and then he finishes roll call, and like everybody's like, all right, now let's hit the road, and everybody gets up and just takes all their stuff back. And then it would like go into like the music, like title card, like all the actors and stuff. There's like 10 of them who remains actors, but it's like their lives in and out, but like mostly about police work and stuff that like in the first episode, 2 of them get shot and like go into the hospital.
Jeez.
So I mean, it tackles a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But it was one of the best TV shows.
What year like
this was 1980 to 88.
No, I mean that's what it was filmed. Was that what it was like? What it was supposed to portray? Okay.
It's like a nondescript. Say all the cars said like Metro Police. Okay. But it was like you could tell it was like, you know, a Pittsburgh, Chicago-y. Well, not probably really Chicago, like a Pittsburgh, like Cleveland-ish, you know, grizzled city. Okay.
Moving on to your number 3, Parks and Rec.
I love that show. It's just so good.
I've actually never seen it. I've only seen like
You've never watched Parks and Rec?
You've
just seen like the Swanologues.
I plan on watching it. I watched some of The Office first, and I still haven't finished that, but I'm going to watch Parks and Rec next.
Parks and Rec is better than The Office.
Okay.
You're going to have to power through parts of the first 2 seasons.
Because I've seen some
Because that's a lot of like them like really figuring out what they want to do with certain characters, especially Leslie, Amy Poehler's character in the beginning. And then like towards the end, like season 2, like they fade out with Paul Schneider's character because he ends up leaving. They kicked him off the show, and they never brought him back. But that was more like Ron Swanson becoming Ron Swanson-y, April being disturbing. You had Andy being Andy.
Yeah, because I've seen some clips of Andy and Chris
That's
Pratt
how I
and
always
stuff.
remembered Chris Pratt. Like when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I'm just like, it's Andy. It's Andy Dwyer.
Andy Dwyer got fit. That's all.
Andy Dwyer got ripped. And they make fun of it in the show because like that happened like while they were still doing Parks and Rec later on. And like Adam Scott is just talking to him. He's like, yeah. He's like, so you just stopped drinking beer? And he goes, yeah, that was it. And he goes, how much were you drinking? He goes, too much. He's just like walking, but he's like yoked in like in a suit, but you could tell he's huge.
Yeah. Okay.
That show is just like there's so many like funny jokes. Like even other side characters become hilarious. Like Aziz Ansari's character Tom Haverford, and I think her name's Rita or Retta. She plays Donna Meagle. She's hilarious too.
Does this show that does it have Jason Bateman in it as well?
No, that's Arrested Development.
Okay. Sometimes I get those confused.
And then you get Adam Scott and Rob Lowe, who become series regulars like at the end of season 2.
Okay.
And like Rob Lowe's like stupid, upbeat, health guru-y guy. Where like you tell somebody your name, he just goes, Mitch McGee. He just like has to point at you and everything. He goes, literally the best thing in the world. Everything's literally the best.
All right. We'll move on to number 2 on your list for TV is Scrubs.
Yeah.
I've never seen that show.
You've never watched Scrubs?
never could get
Don't
into
watch
it.
the last season. It didn't count.
Okay.
They ended it with season 8, not 9.
Okay.
Especially Scrubs. I mean, it's about the 3 mains when the show starts. You have JD, Elliot, and Turk. Sarah Chalk, Donald Faison, and what's his face? Who plays JD? I cannot remember his name. Zach Braff are the 3 mains, and they like just got out of med school. They're doing residency.
Well, this is like a spoof because they had what was the other show?
Like General Hospital. No. Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, Grey's Anatomy, ER. And
all that.
all
So
those-
this is a comedy about it, but from what
Okay.
people like nurses and doctors I've talked to and known, they're just like, what's your favorite medical show? And they're like Scrubs.
Well,
Because it's not like super serious, like doctors just like, he's got this, it's lupus.
because I feel like the comedies are more of what people are actually like. 'Cause not everybody's going to walk around with this drama-filled, world all the time. They're going to try
Yeah.
to make a little levity of it. So
There's a bunch of comedy. And then, what's his face? Ted McGinley, who plays Dr. Cox, who's like JD's like mentor, but also hates his guts. I mean, they end up being like father-son relationship, people like Brendan Fraser was a big guest star for a lot of the early episodes.
okay,
I mean, it's a myriad of emotion when you watch that show.
okay.
With all like the characters, the ins and outs of the hospital, the bits, the hatred between JD and the janitor.
And then for your number 1, you kind of took it up a notch when it comes to medical professionalism and MASH.
Yeah, I remember seeing MASH like I was in high school because I forgot what I was watching, but like I would wait for a certain show to come on, but MASH was on before it. Like on reruns. And it'd be like 2 episodes.
I've seen probably more of MASH than I have any of the others on your list. And even that I haven't seen much of. So
Because I kept seeing like MASH out of order because I never knew like which season it was or who. Because I remember like the first ones I watched, it was, obviously Alan Alda's in every episode, but it would be like Alan Alda and be Mike Farrell and Harry Morgan playing BJ and Colonel Potter, respectively. And I'd see those episodes, and there would be a lot of comedy, but those were more drama-driven. Then I remember seeing the earlier ones, on to Wayne Rogers and McLean Stevenson, and that was just like pure comedy-filled, like nonsense. So I ended up just having to like buy them on DVD, and like I remember I got the first 3 seasons, and I watched all 3 seasons in a weekend.
okay.
Like I slept for like 3 hours a night. I was just watching MASH. I couldn't help but watch the show.
Okay.
And then later the movie, and then I read the book.
Well,
Do.
why is that your number 1?
I've seen every episode of that show at least 3 times.
So I mean, just you just like it the
I
most?
just liked watching the show. I mean, there was just something about like I mean, just like the silly hijinks of like them just doing stuff, and like, I mean, I get it's a lot of it's satire, making bits about like, oh, the war in Korea, and it's kind of hilarious that a show ran for 11 years about a war that was only 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, it tackled a lot of issues, and then just the comedy of it and the writing was just so good,
Okay.
and the acting between all the main actors.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of have a time constraint now since we're doing the Planet X network. So we're going to have to hurry up and finish this episode here in a few minutes.
Speed round.
But, well, no, I was going to say we'll just add it on to our Thursday episode. We'll do our normal news and
How
reviews.
long does the episode have to be?
Can't be much more than an hour.
Much more than an hour? Oh, we got like 4 minutes.
Okay.
Power through. Number 10, tell me what it is.
Number 10 for...
That's taking time, Mitch. We don't have that kind of time.
We got to have it.
This bomb needs to be defused.
Just sweat dripping off his brow. All right, your number 10 in games is Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Well, I should have put that way higher. I played the crap out of that game. That game was great. Even when I got it the first time, I had a hard time because I couldn't get past the part with the Nazgul because I didn't figure out you had to parry, but you also had to swing through the fire in the middle so you could set them on fire. Otherwise, you just kept dying. I didn't figure that out for like a week.
All right, your number 9 was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Oh, one of the best games I ever played. I put hours, days,
Now,
months,
'cause
years
there
into
was
that game.
There was Assassin's Creed 2.
There was Assassin's Creed 1, then there was 2, then Brotherhood. Brotherhood was the
Okay.
third one that had come out.
There was 2
Yeah.
games with Ezio.
Because 2 was the 3. Because you had 2, Brotherhood, and
then-
Revelations.
Yeah, then when he's older. I forgot about
When
that.
Assassin's Creed was a great franchise.
Yeah. Number 8, you have Call of Duty Big Red 1. Is that the original?
No, this is like an off one because I had the original Call of Duty, and then
Okay.
but Call of Duty Big Red 1 was just all about like it went through like it followed like the Big Red 1 First Army through the entire Second World War.
Okay.
So you're landing in North Africa, fighting the French, accurate, and then you fight the Germans, and then you go through Sicily into Italy, and then into France, and then into Germany, and like it's always like this myriad of characters you're always with, like in the squad, and then like as the game progresses, some of them get killed off.
Okay.
But it was a really fun game.
For your number 7, you have Ace Combat 4, which is kind of different from some of your other stuff.
So I got Ace Combat 4. This is on PS2. I remember I got the game and I played like the first 2 missions,
Okay.
and like I didn't really like it, and I didn't really get into it. And then I went back to it after like getting into Top Gun, and then I just beat the brakes off that game. like I flew every mission in F-14. Like I was doing all of it. I was doing speed runs through that game. Like it was cool.
I remember playing, I think it was the original Ace Combat. I remember playing that with my dad. And it was just, we'd always play versus where you're just in this canyon.
Yeah, I would do that with my brother, and I'd smoke him.
Well, because we were younger, my dad, he would beat me all the time. The only way I was able to beat him is to get a more agile plane so I could, because he'd be chasing me everywhere. And I just get a more agile planes where I'd get as close as I could to the surface and then just, yeet over to the side.
And hope he just crashes.
Yeah,
He's
he
going
just-
too fast. He couldn't pull up.
Exactly. Because I never could get very rarely was I able to beat him, by shooting him down. So I would just try to outmaneuver him. That was the only way I could beat him.
And sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Your number 6 is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes, that game I got. That was the first Xbox game I ever got.
Okay.
This is before it came with Halo, or after it came with Halo. They stopped doing that.
Okay.
But it was like, oh, if you get this bundle, you get Knights of the Old Republic, which at that point was like our greatest hits already.
Now, I like the story, but I just can't get into the gameplay.
At that point, Mitch, in time, that was all we had.
I know, but
We didn't know what could be better.
Yeah,
We were unlearned.
it's just hard to do now. Your number 5 is Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Elden Ring.
Why is that on your list?
I mean, I just had so much fun playing that. That was my first introduction to, was it From Software?
Yeah.
Is
Mine too, yeah.
That was I hadn't played any Dark Souls games. I played like 30 minutes of Dark Souls 2 when I was in college, and I took the disc out and I spiked it at my roommate because I was like, take your stupid game back. This is dumb. I was like, oh, this is dying the game. I died in the menu. Like, this is a role-playing game. What role am I playing? The victim? But Elden Ring, like all the customization you can do to like how you look and how you do everything.
Yeah.
Learning all the stuff we had to, like what weapons were best, what builds, like where to put attributes, and then the 3 of us just going through the adventure together. I had a lot of fun with that.
The painful part is playing by yourself, but it is a lot of fun to play with other people.
It was a lot of fun playing with you and Hayden and Evan.
Yeah. We had some fun.
And then when Hayden was gone for like a week, and me and you like turbo levels, and we were just dragging him through everything.
We found the cheese and we exploited it heavily.
Like a boss could hit us 2 to 3 times and not kill us outright. Hayden, like if he like gave him like the dun 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 look, Hayden's character just go blah.
Moving on to your number 4 is Halo Combat Evolved, the original Halo.
That was my first Halo. I mean, that was like the second Xbox game I got.
Okay.
And I mean, just like that whole story, I thought was so fascinating. Where you're like a super soldier in the future. You're flying through space. You're fighting aliens. It was first person. You're the chief. You know, you could be anybody, and you're running around beating the crap out of grunts.
See, I didn't have an Xbox until Xbox 360, so I never played the original one until later on. No, I had a PlayStation 2.
No, I bought my Xbox with my own money.
And I was in high school, and I didn't even ask for it. My parents just got it for me and my brother to share. I was in college, and I would play it on the weekends when I come home sometimes. But I didn't play a whole lot of games growing up through once I got into high school, and then afterwards I played tons of games all the time.
Now you do now.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean it's a fun game. I've played it before. I played a couple of the LAN parties with some friends in high school.
I remember the old days.
Blood
Gulch.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play. But
Throwing grenades through the transporter.
yeah, it's pretty fun. Your number 3, Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire.
Nintendo 64. That was my first Star Wars game.
Okay. Well, this is the one where you're like going after Boba Fett, or
That's one of the missions. That was like the hardest mission I've ever played in a game in my entire life. I'd rather fight Millennia than go after Boba Fett again. Now I would, but at the time when you were a kid, like you couldn't look up how to get past Boba Fett. It was trial and error.
Yeah.
It took 50 minutes to get to Boba Fett on that mission. And like the checkpoints were not kind to you at all. And I remember like me and my dad, like we played the crap out of this. And like I finally like downed Boba Fett. Like I got his health all the way out because he's got missiles. He's like heat seeking you. He's flying around. You can barely see him because it's so fuzzy. And we did it. Me and my dad are like jumping up, high five, and like cutscene. And the cutscene is Boba Fett like falls, and you think, yeah, you did it, cool. And then it's like you hear, and then the Slave One comes up and turns to you in the cannon's angle, and we're like, ah!
I've never played this game, so I never did 64. I was,
As I gesture to my Nintendo 64, that's right there.
Sitting on the floor in front of your TV. Your number 2 is Star Fox for the 64.
Back in the day.
Never played it. Not once.
I don't remember how we got Star Fox. I think I had rented it. We had rented it or something. Like I was sick, and like there's a Blockbuster, you like rent the game for a week.
Yeah.
And I remember playing. Me and my dad would play Star Fox, and even my mom and like my brother, like all of us, like liked playing Star Fox. And like going through like all of them, like how far could we go? And, like my mom used to like speed run like the Meteor level like right after
So
the
it's,
first
it's,
mission.
it's more story.
Yeah, this is all story
I
driven.
wasn't sure if it was like a versus thing or what.
Oh, but it had verses. We would do that sometimes.
Okay.
But I mean, we pretty much always played for the story just to see how far we can get. And then my dad's like, "There's a train level," and she's like, "Did you get to the sun planet? There's a sun planet."
All right, and lastly on your top 10 games list is Skyrim, but I don't think you really like it, right?
I mean, I've only bought the game 4 times on 4 different consoles. Because I had it when it came out on 360. This is when I got tired of playing Modern Warfare 3.
Uh-huh.
This is like 2012.
Okay.
Like I just got kind of fed up. I just got bored of first-person shooters for a while.
Yeah.
And I went to Blockbuster, or not Blockbuster, we went to GameStop. And I was like, what do you guys got that's like the total opposite of COD? And this guy's just like, well, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. He's like, it came out last year. He's like, already game of the year. He's like, try that out. And, 400 something plus hours of my life later. And I'm like level like 80 something. And like, I can't be killed at that point. I've discovered almost everything. And I still hadn't beat the game to like 50%.
All right. Well, that's Tom's top 10 movies, TVs, and games.
If you disagree, you're wrong.
If you do disagree, tell us why.
Tell us yours. We'll talk about it. I'll make fun of it.
Like I say, look us up on Twitter or Facebook and let us know your top 10.
Let Mitch know. I don't check it.
Don't worry, I'll tag him in it. He'll see it.
No, I won't. I ignore the notifications.
But let us know what your top 10 is in movies, TV, and games. And, tell us why Tom is wrong about his. Or if you have, memories about some of these games like Tom did, share them with us.
If you say Lord of the Rings isn't number 1, we'll fight.
But anyways, that's our episode for this week. Check us out on Twitter at this entertain or Instagram, which is entertain.this, and also our Facebook. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bah. Cyclops. Sure ask why a lot. Well, why do you like this? Because I do. Like, what do you mean, why?
That's not good enough.
I need to know what you know, Tom.
Tell me your secrets.
Nice.